and organizations along an enlightened path. So I invite you to sit comfortably and tune in as I welcome you to the Meta Business Millennial, where we get the real conversations you won't get in the boardroom so that we understand this is exactly the path we need to be on in order to grow, evolve, and thrive. Greetings, I am 𝗚𝗏𝘆 and welcome to today's episode of the Meta Business Millennial podcast. We are again live from Hawaii, the island of Kauai, and we are at home tonight with Max and Jasmine. And I'm just, as always, so happy to be here with you and share this moment with you, this experience with you. And, if you haven't already, I invite you to like this video, share it with a friend. We should be across all social media platforms on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. So you can check us out anywhere and DM us. Leave a comment if you feel so called to engage with us and learn more about what we talk about and share today.
In this case, fake it till you make it is not really the way. We need to have the true lasting happiness. And actually at my level as a master teacher and also as a master being, this is where those lessons on happiness are very deep. And there are many very evolved beings who they're not actually thoroughly happy. And these are lessons and teachings that I bring, and they're not something that you can just find on any old street corner. It's like, if you hear these types of message across millions of lifetimes, it'd be a miracle. So I just want to put the preciousness of the opportunities that are available in the world, and obviously through our work, but just to really take advantage of this time to let's not waste anything. If you're ready to be happy, let's get it going. There's no time to waste. Why would you wait to be more healthy, wealthy, happy, all those things? It's there's no good reason to do it. And that's just going to bring more of all the good stuff to you. Aaron, I'm preaching to a crowd next to these two ladies, but you know what I'm saying? Okay, here we go.
Yeah, and actually I've mentioned this on the podcast before of what his motto is play, fun, and love. Because I just have adopted it as my own motto, play, fun, and love.
Those are actually my guidelines.
Your guidelines?
Those are my guidelines. Play, fun, and love is the minimum standard to allow beings of multiple age levels to actually still get along. So for example, with play, fun, and love, you can have a little kid and adult still getting along and being very happy. You can also have a younger soul and an older soul still getting along within that framework. Yeah. That's why that's there.
Love that. So that's a framework, play, fun, and love, more specifically. And the reason why I wanted to speak to that and also kind of building on Jasmine's point around happiness, is because this is something that was void from my life. When I had Harlow, I remember having him when he started getting to the age to play, I would just be on the floor, so bored and so unable to just engage with him. I had no idea what to even do. And kind of chokes me up a little bit, but it was just where I was. I just, was so energetically drained. And so, in my view, unhappy that I had forgotten what it even meant to play. We go to the playground and, kind of what I see now, how other parents just kind of observing and just watching, what I'm saying? We don't even know what to do anymore. We're just kind of chatting with each other or whatever. Because that element of play has really been lost upon us. And I remember last summer, as I started to embody more of the guidelines, it was actually part of my intention. I remember going to Amsterdam. I wanted to learn how to play again. I just want to learn how to play and have fun. And I think I've gotten much better at it. There's still work to be done there, but I'm much better at playing for sure.
You're coming along.
Yeah, coming along. I know how to like laugh authentically and it just not be for cameras. I was really good at faking. Actually, I grew up in a very beautiful, but at the same time traumatizing household. And I was in pageants. I was a stage performer, a dancer, a violinist, you name it, I did it. And I was so good at performing that I didn't even know the difference between what was real and fake anymore, because everything about my external life was perfect. And what I felt on the inside didn't even matter, because I didn't even have the words to express it. So you can imagine that kind of programming for a lifetime, is very damaging, to the point, like, I always share my story, but by the time I'm in my early 30s, I'm like suicidal and, don't even know what to do with myself anymore, because I faked it so much that I don't even know who the fuck I am. And I've done everything that everyone wanted me to do, but I didn't feel like I had done anything. And I know that this is a state that many people are in, because I see it. You don't have to say it, I see it. And this is part of the psychic abilities too that start to come online, is that you begin to look at people and look in their eyes and tell like how they feel. And as empathic beings, as divine beings in human form, it is our duty to do something about that, and that's actually why I've been called to do this work. Is I don't want to see people in that state. If you're feeling the calling to change your life and do something differently and feel differently, I want to help. And even people who don't want to, I want to help. But I'm working on that part too. But I was able to change that aspect of myself, because I knew I didn't want to die. I knew I didn't want to take my life. So there had to be a different way. Like, I had already hit the bottom, so the only way to go was up, but I really didn't know what that would look like or what that would take. And I just started asking God. And I feel like for those who may be in this stage, that's the first person to go to, the first place to go, is just start asking God, like, how can I feel happy? Or if you have questions, what can I do with my life? Who can teach me? I remember praying for a teacher 10 years ago. I wanted a teacher so bad. I wanted a mentor so bad. And little by little, people started to get introduced to my life. As we've heard so many times, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And that absolutely happened for me. I mean, look at me now. And they're never going to leave me. Thank God. And so I just kept asking God and doing my affirmations, literally like in my childhood bedroom next to this toxic man, with my mom, flipping out, and my newborn baby, I am fully supported. I am loved. Like I still have my affirmations recorded. And I listen to them and I'm like, bitch, you did not believe that. But I would just say it over and over again until it became part of my beingness. I am fully supported. I am loved. I love myself. I am me. And I repeat this a lot on this podcast, but these are affirmations that I had to say over myself, because I did not feel that way. And so, all this to say that the happiness that we all seek is fully present and available to us and accessible to us. We just have to allow it. And the allowing comes in that self-discovery, comes in that questioning, and it comes in the journey and the patience with it too.
I'm not yawning. Thank you. That was awesome. Actually, I had a lot of things I wanted to share about.
I have anything? A lot too, yeah, but you go first.
No, you go first. Or I can go first. There was a couple pieces in there I was trying to remember, and you kind of went on. Remind me of some of the things you were just saying.
I was talking about my journey. I was talking about feeling unhappy.
Oh, this was the piece. Okay. This was the piece that I wanted to comment on. You mentioned about like how that we're going to be part of your life for the rest of your life. Now, I think that's an interesting point, and this is actually something that's like very significant, and I do want to just touch on and explain this to you, and that is that like the way we approach things is that, first of all, we're all connected. There is really no true escaping from each other. I mean, it's a vast universe. You could certainly not see people for a really, really, all practical purposes forever. But we are actually all connected. You know what I'm saying? And at least in this world, in this realm, and in this country, like there's like, it's kind of like when you get into like a relationship and you really love somebody, and it's like you never want that to end. And what's so cool is it doesn't have to end. We're just, because right now we're not in this like cycle of like everything always getting worse. We're getting in a cycle into everything getting better. So if you hope and dream to be in a relationship with somebody, that relationship can keep getting better and kind of morph into new forms and new flavors and get better again, and then morph into new stuff and get even more and better. Like, there's no upper limit to this. And so the reason I'm bringing this up is that right now, the way we perceive relationships is extremely limited. You know, it's like they're like the relationships of the future are going to be so fulfilling. And like, if you look back on this, you'd be like, oh my gosh, you'd be scarred from even just thinking about it. You'd be scarred from just thinking about a relationship today. The relationships in the future are going to be very, very, exquisite. It's like eating orgasmic food. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be like having amazing sex. Like, but even sex that people have today is going to be like appalling, truly, towards the type of exquisite beauty and fulfillment that we can have in communion with each other and with ourselves and with nature and with everything that life has to offer. So our pathway is that pathway of moving and teaching people and introducing, because we need people and souls that are willing and capable to attune and be the leaders of leading this type of way of life and consciousness, so that the rest of the world who are not New Earth leaders can have something to latch on to. And that's not a put down. It's just, that's not their role. That's not where they're at in their soul's evolution. That's fine. No big deal. But if that is you, then, then you're going to be probably either suppressing something deep inside your being, scared to look at it, or you're going to just work with it and then really just be happier and happier and more fulfilled every day. So I don't know if that was an interesting piece, but I think that I like thinking about that too, because, we get in, we have, some of our clients, they're in a relationship, for example, with somebody, and like, oh, I just like really don't want to say goodbye. I really do love this person. It's not like, I know that this person is not like a longer term relationship, but I really do love them. And I would love to have them as part of my life, because I wouldn't have gotten into a relationship with them in the first place if I didn't love them. Like, that would have been crazy, right? So how do we build like this love into our life and build all of our relationships around stuff like that? Well, there's like a lot of learning into this. That's why we teach that. And that's why there's like deep healing. Also, the trauma that a lot of people have had around past relationships, this lifetime and other lifetimes, that have to be resolved for us to move in this exquisite state of being that is now available. And it's just some work that's in between here and there, paradise on earth. It's already there. It's already for us. It's already been given by God for us to live in that state of being. It's just, we had to go on this long, or at least mankind had to go on this long journey away from God for quite some time. But God knew that, because that was just our learning journey. You know what I'm saying? That was our learning journey. And we could certainly have multiple talks on just that itself. But anything you want to share, sweetheart?
Yeah, I want to go back to a different topic, and I guess Nell can like splice whatever is like relevant. But I just wanted to touch on that work aspect just one more time, because there's a lot of layers to that, and maybe hear Aaron's experience of the work, because we know that Aaron went to Harvard Business School, and I went to Furman, which at that time was considered Harvard of the South. And I still have nightmares. I think they've slowed down, but nightmares of like not being ready for an exam, or having so many exams, and like, oh my gosh, I got to reread all my textbooks and like to score, or like to make it on the dean's list, which I did. Yeah, which I did. But like, I really just made my life miserable in this pursuit of this quote unquote higher Ivy League, or
to make anybody out there feel more comfortable, I was a straight C student, and I'm very proud of it. Just doing what's necessary, because I knew it was a sham.
But Aaron and I, we were a little bit indoctrinated into that, that system. And so we put ourselves under a lot of pressure because we thought we were doing something good for ourselves. And like we helped Aaron unlearn a lot of information from that, because it's so funny, like, because from our abilities now, we are helping her with her divine purpose, and part of that is her business, and she went to Harvard Business School, and, I studied business too, like as a second degree, but, I did more Asian studies, but still, like, the way that I was approaching it was like, I have to be on the dean's list, just kind of going for that high achievement mark, and I know Aaron's the same way, and so I've had nightmares about, like, oh my gosh, like, I don't have enough time, and this stress. And so that's one kind of work that was completely fruitless. And then when we say that Erin still has to do work, like she shows up and we're doing the heavy lifting, like I want her to also share like what her experience of the work is. Because so when we do the heavy lifting, we're doing advanced energy healing work and working on clearing trauma and so that she can have soul embodiment too, because it's just a whole process that we go through. But then there's certain skills that we have to make sure that our clients that are New Earth leaders have up to a certain level so that they can safely serve lots of people without getting harmed themselves. So when we go about teaching in that training process that's unique and custom to their particular New Earth leadership, it's also so that they don't perpetuate, like create more trauma, right? Because it's like you have to learn actual proper protocols for heaven on earth. So there is a lot of learning, but again, like we make the learning very easy and simple. It's not difficult. I mean, I know that might be hard to accept because like you might see Erin as really intelligent, or some people think I'm intelligent or perceive me that way, but like, Max is a C student and he makes it simple.
You have to want it.
Yeah.
You have to want it. You have to want it, and we'll take you the rest of the way, and Erin knows that, but there's lots of times that are challenging because it's not like you're digging a hole that's, super deep. It's just that some of these things can be hard to look at because you're scared of it, really. It's like facing your fears to a certain degree, but I promise you that whatever fears you have they're fears. They're not actually true. I mean, they're founded on something, and they might be real to you at some level, but they're not greater truths. There is a greater truth beyond the fear, and that's what our job is to get you to that. Like, that's part of the work, part of our job, not, when we're working with somebody's job. They're okay to be a sloppy mess. You just need to show up, and then we'll do the work and help you get to the next step. You have to just be able to ask, honestly, a good question. You have to be willing to show up and listen. And we've had a couple people that the littlest sign of things kind of quote unquote going wrong and not like bring it to our attention and just being thorough in it, then they get very worried and just jump ship. And so that won't work. You need to be able to like, okay, we're a team. And if something seems off, you got to communicate that, and then we'll work on that. We'll address that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people are not used to teamwork. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you, dear.
Yeah. And so I guess the intensity would be like around those triggers or some uncomfortable feelings. So that trauma is really uncomfortable, but you get immediate relief. So like when we're doing a session, we go through it, but Erin can share. It's like, you're going to feel lighter and better because we can clear it and resolve it. And so if there's temporary discomfort, it's worth it because it's like resolved once and for all. And then there's cycles of it. So we do it at a rate that is appropriate for you. So we're very mindful of that because it's our karmic responsibility to make sure we're handling that trauma or that dysfunction in a healthy way. So it's not disrupting your life like too much, meaning like that you're still moving forward. If something is unraveling that shouldn't be there, it's not, you're still, it's like a cathartic release, even though it is maybe a perceived loss of an identity or loss of something that was familiar and comfortable for you. But I still think in terms of the triggers and that type of work, it's nothing compared to the stress when you're like in university and you have all these like exams and you're studying things and like trying to do textbook work.
You're just comparing it to other sense of people at work,
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. That's a really great question. I'm so glad you brought that up for listeners and viewers here, because the work for me, I would love to just kind of walk from beginning to now, because, you know, when we first started, it was, of course, showing up for sessions on time, being present, being open-minded, having the vulnerability, being willing to share my truth. To Max's point, if things seem off, I remember the first time I met them in Tampa. I got my own Airbnb. I did not stay with them. And when they would come over, it would be at night, and I share with them how fearful I was, that I did not want to be raped. I did not want to be sexually assaulted. And I'm laughing because, you know, this is such a common question when people are asking me about my work with Max and Jasmine is, oh, Aaron, be careful. Like, I hear that everyone's, you know, everything, all the spiritual stuff just turns out to be sexual orgies. And I had the same fears. And I remember even, and they reminded me of it, I had a fear of even just sitting in front of Max, you know, just me and him, looking him in the eye. And that level of intimacy was very uncomfortable for me because of my, you know, I don't really talk about this a lot on the podcast, but because of my past sexual trauma and because of my, you know, toxic relationships with men, or feeling overly sexualized by men, and feeling, you know, shamed for my for being sexual or sexy. And also white people, yeah, and also a race layer, you know.
I had a lot of layers I had to work through here. I had to like make up for a lot of stuff here.
Yeah, literally. And so this is the work, you know what I'm saying, is being able to recognize this, feel this, see it, and still show up. Yeah, that's not easy.
You obviously wanted it.
Obviously. And I obviously wanted something different. I didn't even know what I wanted. I just didn't want to feel pain. I didn't want to feel how I was feeling. I just knew, and there was nothing they could say or anyone else could say. I knew for myself that there was something greater. There was something underneath it all that if I could just go far enough and poke and probe, and that I would find it. And we call it mining for gold. And I knew that there was gold there. I had no idea how to do it. So I had to trust somebody. And, you know, of course you have to trust reasonably and not put yourself in compromising situations. And I felt that way. Like I was trusting enough where I wasn't, you know, too much. And from there, you know, I had, you know, that experience, and we had to do more clearing because, you know, the ceremony there didn't, you know, it was my first time. And of course there was a lot of resistance in my own being and, you know, my own, you know, stuff that I had to, you know, do a little bit more. And of course to get me to today. But when we're going through the sort of work of the remote sessions where we're doing like Zoom or they're doing remote work, for me, the work was tending to my family. And I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast, but I remember when I was working with my first executive coach, my first life coach, if you will, when I moved back to Houston and I was a single mom and taking care of my mom. My life was chaotic. I was dealing with shitty caregivers and shitty relationships and child protective services. You know, I told my coach, I was like, if I don't have stability in my household, I can never be a billionaire. Like, cause this has been my dream. Like, you know, you go to Harvard Business School so you can be the next like Mark Zuckerberg, or, you know what I'm saying? Or the next Michael Bloomberg, more appropriately. And that was at least my vision for myself. And so I, was just like, I don't even see it happening for myself because my life at home is just too chaotic. And I had dark circles under my eyes. I was really skinny. Like, you know, my hair was falling out. I was really trying, y'all. You know, I was trying to eat vegan. I was taking my supplements. I was doing what I thought was my best. Yet it was certainly not enough. And so the work for me, particularly as I started to learn my soul template, which I came to understand I'm like a queen mother, a mother template, earth mother, divine mother, how you want to call it. Part of my soul's journey was to learn how to be a good mother. So my work is Harlow. As we hear his little voice in the background. And my work every day is, how do I not only properly, but patiently, lovingly, playfully, enjoyably care for my son? You guys, like, there couldn't be anything easier, but there couldn't be anything more challenging, particularly given the traumatic situations that I've shared very openly on this podcast that I've been through with Harlow, at his very young age. And so that's part of my work. And the work that I do with my mom is, not necessarily part of my soul work, but that's work that I've chosen to take on as, a loving, supportive daughter. And that too becomes part of my soul's lesson and part of my healing and part of my gifts to the world, because I've chose to take on this extra, credit, if you will, because of course I want extra credit. I'm a Harvard A+ student. And so so that is my work. I don't know if I should pause there.
Love it.
I love that we can get into the mother templates and how we discovered like that was a big piece that in terms of Erin's soul evolution, one of the sequence of progressions for her preparation for the many layers of her service. And it's so beautiful because she can practice these new teachings that we train her in directly every day with her little one. And being a divine mother and having that the consciousness of it, and then the right codes, which allows for the right behavior and the right relationship. You can share, Max can get into that, but it will create a divine being out of your child, right? It's just wonderful. Like, and Erin did have that dream, like on a soul level, to raise a divine masculine. So she's stepping into that divine mother like role, not just pretend like believing, oh, I'm a good mother, but what does that look like? So she's being educated in that, and that's going to, she's stepping into that embodiment. So that's transformational in the pure presence of what she's doing. But it's such a gift to the world. And as this turns online for her more and she's embodying the skills, like, because we're still in the beginning phases of it. I just can't wait for everyone to see it and us to talk about it and share all the results, because it's going to gain momentum very quickly. And well, it actually already has. Like Erin was saying, she didn't know what to do with Harlow in the beginning, and we did some deep work on Harlow as well, but also the training of, because Erin's the mother and with him 24/7, so not to perpetuate more trauma, or like what are the best practices for dealing with that and helping Harlow blossom into his potential. And now, and Erin was saying earlier about how like even she sees other parents, they just don't know what to do with their kids. And then after a little bit of training, like the parents at the playground were like asking her, oh my gosh, what do you do? And like, because Harlow like completely transformed. And I don't know if you want to share a little bit just about like the difference in Harlow, but it's beautiful just to know like that can happen for you and children as well. And I just think that's a really cool thing to talk about, because I think a lot of people also think that they're just going to be that way, but really it's dysfunction, and like you can actually transform it and be a leader in that. And so I think Erin has been really fulfilled in the changes she's been able to directly practice herself in that work with Harlow and the kind of transformation she's brought to Harlow already.
I'm happy to share. And I have to say that we can just kind of talk about the past year with Harlow, because Harlow, actually he's coming up on his birthday. So it's been a year exactly, where Harlow was having incredibly, intense tantrums, not being able to, pay attention even in school. Like he'd be in daycare, y'all. And I'd be getting little, the daily reports like, oh, Harlow's not listening and Harlow's not doing this. And Harlow's, in many ways, like emotionally unstable. And this is like the report cards, like, yeah. And, then like I go to his Christmas program, and, Harlow's a really bright child, and everyone in my family is pretty bright, and so I'm going to his Christmas program, and like all the kids are like singing the songs, but he's like so distracted that he can't even like pay attention to the songs or do the simple little songs that I'm sure they've been practicing every day for weeks. And I mean, as much as I was recording it and, happy for him, it really broke my heart to see my child. Like, this is not my child, you know what I'm saying? But I knew that he was struggling a lot under tremendous amount of pressure, very, the toxicity that was happening with the back and forth of the co-parenting, the abuse, the system, if you will, was really, rearing its head through my child. And I knew that it had to stop. And the only thing that was keeping it from happening was me. I just had to put my foot down and make the change. And so when I decided to, make those necessary changes, then, it was almost like a miraculous, shift in Harlow's being. Not only is he so much more loving, but the tantrums are pretty like standard toddler tantrums. Before he would be like throwing himself on the ground, screaming bloody murder, like, beating himself in the head. Like, it was almost like he was, had mental illness challenges, like literally. And slapping himself. I forgot about all this, like cursing people out, calling our caregivers a bitch, like from a 3-year-old. It was insane, actually, now I think about it. And so now Harlow, even this past week being in Hawaii, like I've had friends be like, "Oh my God, Harlow's just the sweetest. He asked me, if I could have some of if he can have some of my snacks." And he asked, "Would you be okay? Do you need some snacks?" Like, he's so caring and loving. And, other parents are always just, complimenting me on his, mannerisms and manner ability. And, obviously it's not perfect every day, but, more generally, he is just such a loving, caring, playful child. And a lot of you see him on social media and see how, outspoken he is and outrageous he is and how a big personality he has. And that certainly was not able to come out in its fullest expression a year ago. And so being able to see this young soul and my child come into a safety and security in his being and being in his fullest expression is a gift from God. And it's, to Jasmine's point, what I prayed for. I actually, before I got pregnant, I was fasting. I was doing water fasting, juice cleanses. I wanted to have a divine fucking child. I thought I was Mary Magdalene. For real, like I wanted to have the next Jesus. And I actually named my child 𝗲𝘀, which is, the Egyptian deity from which Jesus was inspired by. And Isis is his mother, Osiris is his father. And I was Isis. I used to wear a bracelet, Isis, for years. And I knew that in many ways that was my purpose, but didn't really anchor into it fully, and wanted to raise a man that I had never experienced. That was it. Like, I want to cry right now. As much as I love my father, as much as I love my brother and the men that I had in my life, far from, divine masculine. And I wanted to be part of the leadership that brought men into this world, that treated women well, loved women, and honored women. Period. And I get that gift through Harlow 𝗲𝘀. I have to hand it over.
Your turn.
I don't know what to say anymore.
No, because Sarah and I am both right. You gotta talk to
Oh boy, between these two waterworks over here, I usually find myself in this position. I don't know what to say, but it sounds like you got a lot of clarity on some of this deeper purpose part. I don't think it's limited to this. Not that that is a limitation, but I think that this is a foundation. This is a foundation of purpose, and certainly what I would say is that this is, attuning your system, your mind, your being, while being also efficient and bringing that into the world, also is training you and polarizing you to look and understand those patterns that make that template up, so that now you can work with it, help others identify, and just all that kind of stuff. Does that sound correct?
Yeah, so on your own spiritual journey, there's an aspect of this area that your soul's growing and evolving. So we call that the soul evolution aspect of what your soul is growing into. And it is interconnected and related to your divine purpose as well. But your divine purpose can also be downloaded in a different way, because that would also be like in service to humanity, and what you're evolving and growing into will be a part of that as well. But there's different levels of it. So when we're speaking to her stepping into that template of like what an actual divine mother is, and that's her soul wants to step into that embodiment, and it's also training her for her purpose though in the world, because she's working day in and day out and clocking those hours with her own son, and then she's embodying new skills through the training of how to deal with clearing some of that trauma and dysfunction at a certain level, like with her son, and then also the new behaviors and codes and conduct for what is actually of divine mother. And then so when we talked about the New Earth leadership path, how there is this sequence and it happens in different orders, for a different order of like these things that you will experience in your New Earth leadership training and development. There's an aspect of the light. We do a bunch of light body activations so that you can connect and with your soul identity, and you'll experience your soul identity. And there can be different stages of that. So Erin can speak to that, because there was like a few different layers of discovering like your soul, like, whoa, okay, that's me. Okay, it kind of makes sense. And then you discover another aspect of it. And then now with what we accomplished this past week, there was this level of embodiment so that her soul can operate fully within her body and still navigate in the third dimension. So there's kind of a blending and a shifting in the ego structure to accommodate. But there was, and then the downloading of a greater level of understanding of her divine purpose. But I would like her to speak on her experience of awakening to her soul identity and some of the stages of it, because it's just such an odd thing to talk about unless you experience it directly,
I'd be happy to, because I started talking about this on a podcast episode. I don't remember which one, a previous podcast episode of my soul retrieval is what we called it. And the first kind of stage of that was really shocking because even before my soul revealed itself to me, it revealed itself to Max and Jasmine, and they were even like, a little bit, taken aback. And so it was certainly a beautiful experience, because as I mentioned before on that podcast, our soul wants to be seen by us, but oftentimes, it needs to trust us to even reveal itself. And so I believe that kind of is the first stage, is me creating that trust for my soul, that I'm going to wield, for lack of better words, its power and its presence in truth and with goodness, because that is what's required in this day and time, and that's actually why my soul came here. You know what I'm saying? And I have a very powerful soul, and my soul has been here many times, and it occupied very high levels of power and dominance and control, and does not want that anymore. And so that for me was kind of the first step, was cultivating that trust in my being. And I would say that the way that I did that was through what we call my purity and my sincerity. So I'm sincerely devoted to, a righteous path, or an agreeable path, or a path of goodness. There are a lot of, attributes of this, but, for lack of better words, doing the right thing. And that's what my sincerity is. And the purity aspect of it too is very much aligned in that, is that I want to be on the right side of good. And I want to, be in service also to humanity. And so being able to establish that as a foundational truth in my beingness is what I believe allowed my soul to be able to be seen by me. And I guess that feels right. Oh, that right. Yeah. And so actually, even before the soul retrieval, I started to see myself in sort of like a sorceress. I remember that, like, even sort of the dragoness aspect of myself. I deeply resonate with dragons. I work with dragons. I've posted them on my story, my dragon oracle cards. Jasmine works a lot with solar dragons. She actually introduced me to them in our women's circle. And so the sorcery part was a huge aspect of it. The magician part was a huge aspect of it. And the great mentor also came up for me, because that was I had a tarot reading that really kind of lifted this up for me. And so these were the aspects of my soul that started to come through that really allowed me to accept sort of my position as a leader. Like, I'm meant to be the great mentor, the mentors of mentors. And that made sense, considering I want to work with business leaders who more generally have the most power in the world, because they have the most wealth and money and influence in the world. And so if I'm mentoring them, then I'm the great mentor, in terms of my soul design. And so that all those aspects started to come online for me. And I have to tell you that when I had that tarot reading that happened for me in Korea, and also that sorceress stuff came through in my first, ceremony, I didn't believe it, y'all. I didn't, and I couldn't see it. But I just thought it was cool. And, I was like, I'm Erin Patton, I've always been great. I've been popular and a leader, but I really didn't know what those aspects meant until more recently. And so as I started to do that soul retrieval and started to see, who my soul has been across timelines, and why my soul chose me and my parents and this DNA and this lineage and what the lessons I needed to learn, it really started to all come together and culminate and make sense for me in this day and time. And so, I think that's about it.
What about the masculine aspect? Because that's so, like, those are all abilities that are pure to the masculine, that when she saw that aspect of her soul.
What was your question?
So we saw the framework of this sorcerer soul, like in the beginning of the connection with her soul identity. And Erin experienced that directly. Like, I see it, but she also experienced. It's not just like me telling her. She had her direct experience with it. And it makes sense, like, to understand her type of power. And this might be interesting for you to know, but, like, so Erin said earlier, when she was at her lowest of low, like, she was using affirmations, even though she didn't believe it, right? But she's saying them over her, like blessing herself, like almost like using a spell on herself to try to override stuff. But I would say it worked for her because of who she is on a soul level. Like, it wouldn't work for other people that way. And what it did was allow an opening, because she's like, I'm choosing this. She didn't believe it, but she was using it in a way like to open a pathway for her of what she's moving into. So it was like she was already pulling and tapping into some of that soul power. And we usually do in our lowest lows, like through certain trauma, we can access a little bit of our soul, and our soul can kind of hijack our bodies a little bit. So we get an experience of a little bit of relief. But of course, we want that to be conscious. We want to consciously work with it and open that channel and embody the soul so that we can accomplish what we need to accomplish. Because if you don't evolve the soul and then get it fully embodied, you just can't do what you came here to do. And then she came for a retreat a while back in the next stage of working with the soul. And like, I knew it was going to be a soul retrieval, but I didn't know like all the details of it. And then like this larger aspect of her soul, which has a lot of like masculine ability, reveals itself to us. And it was like, we were taken aback because we got to experience certain aspects of Aaron's soul, but this is like a larger piece that really has a lot of power too. But it was really revealed in this masculine archetype, and it really just shows in terms of her soul evolution that she's really worked with the masculine template, like what that polarity is with with men, or like the divine masculine, and it's going to be serving her in a big way, even though she's in a beautiful female body. Like having that, I would say that cultivation over lifetimes is going to plug in and serve her so that she can do really big things. Like I can't do that. So this is like her soul mastery that she already has, that is getting plugged back in, and will be an unfolding, and then also definitely some little upgrades and skills, but so that can wield its power and in service to the divine plan. So it's gonna be really exciting to see that. And I guess that was the other. Do you want to speak to that when you were? Yeah.
So I wasn't gonna go into that part, but it's great because we don't have to, because I feel like I didn't go into that part, and I actually saw myself as like not just the sorcery part, but like an emperor, if you will, like commanding armies, like legions of people. Like, so in my view, my soul has literally built and probably destroyed multiple civilizations. So for me, coming in this woman body at a time where, the New Earth leadership is really a feminine led movement, to have this experience of building civilizations, it's quite convenient. I must say so myself. And that's why even as a young child, being the president of the United States seemed like a very achievable goal for me. Like I was just like, yeah. And I actually I had the distinct honor of going to the White House earlier this year. I actually, that was one of my podcast episodes too. And I went to the White House and I was just like, this feels too small, actually, this achievement. And I was there, I was in it, I saw the people, and I was like, I could do this, but I could do better than this. And that's actually how I feel, and felt even in that moment, back in February of this year. And so it's almost like I did that already, and so this calling that my soul has is really a large one. And I've talked about it even on previous podcasts of like building the next generation of trillionaires, and what it meant to be a trillionaire was likely managing a nation state, with trillions of dollars. And I truly believe that that's what I've been called to do, and training others and doing that as well. So that kind of, I think, encapsulates that piece. And with that, I kind of want to start kind of wrapping it up, because I'm feeling like we're coming to like a nice little close here of really diving more deeply into what the light body is, what the advanced plant medicine mimosa ceremony journey looks like for me, and working with Max and Jasmine and getting to that point, and really inspiring you, like wherever you are, to just start to question and embark on what could be my greatest life purpose, and asking universe, asking God, asking your higher self, what first step can I take in getting me to that said purpose, and continuing to ask those questions on a daily basis, and affirming whatever it is that comes forward for you. Because, I believe if you're watching this podcast, if you're tuning into me, you are on a path to New Earth leadership, or you are on a path to something great, and you deserve to live in and accept and celebrate that purpose that is yours. And with that, I want to encourage you all to definitely check out more of my resources at aaronpatton.com. I have my podcast there. I have my offerings there. You can follow me across social media at I am Aaron Patton. I will pass the mic along to the Max and Jasmine so they can share a little bit more about where you can find them and learn more about working with them as well.
Well, first of all, thanks again for having us on another episode of your podcast. It's been great being here with you, and thank you everybody also for just, spending time with us. I know some of these topics can get a little heady. Part of the issue, just to put context on it, is that if you're new to some of these topics, it's a lot to kind of take in. So if you didn't get it all, don't even worry about it. Like, you can always rewatch if it's super important to you. And obviously Aaron has many podcasts, and we have lots of work at our website, offerings and all that. So don't feel overwhelmed if you just didn't get it all. That's totally okay. Maybe this was just an introduction, and just open your eyes, and you can go right into the aspect or the resource that feels more aligned for you. That's totally fine. So just don't feel overwhelmed about that. Anything you wanted to share, sweetheart?
Do you want to say the Orlandia website?
Well, so yeah, our website, we mentioned this in the last podcast, but our website is www.erlandia.world. That's ERLANDIA.WORLD. There you'll find all of our online courses. You can reach out to us through that website. And also, we try to make it beautiful to give you a flavor, and kind of start inspiring people as they just even navigate the site. So
awesome. This has been so special, y'all. Like, we're in Hawaii. Let me just recap that. We're in Hawaii. I just, bust my third eye wide open. I said it like that. And I am really born again.
The thing that I wanted to say about the born again piece is that the difference in this case about what most people think about the born again, the way you're using it, it's not a terminology I use necessarily, but the piece is that you're now actually more wise. You're tapped into all wisdom from other lifetimes now, which is totally different than being like, you don't know what's going on. Like, a lot of times a lot of this born again thing actually can be a little tricky, because it's like now you're programmable and you can just be told anything like a new child. And that's not the case at all in this case. Actually, she's now super savvy, super capable, super wise at a whole new level. So I just want to add that little anecdote on this born again piece. Yeah. So just to clarify.
Yeah, so I mentioned a little bit earlier around that you can have higher sensory perceptions, like the clairs, like clairaudient, like where you're perceiving dimensional aspects and information, but that you might not have reached your soul level identity or gone through levels of that integration and embodiment. And that's a big stage that is Max and I's responsibility to take our New Earth leaders on, because when you are accessing your soul embodiment, you have then access to this wealth of abilities that your soul's already cultivated. And it's not that it's dormant, but it's not plugged in yet, because we have other lessons that are attunements that we're going through in our inner life until that right timing. And then there's also a sequence that we get downloaded with in terms of what the soul needs to evolve as well, or master in some of the lower dimensional planes before that can be plugged in. And so for Erin, she started getting a glimpse of that in terms when we talked about her masculine soul and like all these abilities she already has. And she went to Harvard Business School. So the combination of that is going to be unstoppable, right? But then she still went through a lot of work to learn new skills and to train from a limited place, because there's that lesson around the soul evolution, and she's still on that journey with the attunement to the divine feminine, and then stepping into the divine mother, like embodiment as well. So just to clarify the difference, because a lot of people think they're already like spiritually awakened if they know a little bit about their soul origin, or know like kind of a star system that their soul, like one identity piece of their soul, but there's so much more to actually integrate and embody. And also for your soul, whoever your soul is, like that, the multidimensional aspects of it it still needs to evolve, because we're always needing to, like, or God wants us to always grow and evolve. That's part of our own journey as well. So a lot of that has to be completed as well before kind of the larger aspect of you can plug in.
Thank you for having us, and then you can get to us through our website. And thanks again, Erin, and we'll be happy to be back in the future with you as you continue to progress on your journey of evolution into paradise on earth.
I just am so grateful to have shared this experience with all of you, and just invite you to continue to tune in to the Meta Business Millennial podcast. And we will see you on our next episode. Much love and light. Peace. Did you really love this episode of the Meta Business Millennial podcast? Well, I am honored, and I appreciate you subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing it with your friends, because your feedback allows us to co-create more enlightened conversations. And if you're interested in growing your soul now, head over to my website, aaronpatton.com, to find all the show notes, links, and free resources to get your energy activated today. In the meantime, stay bright, my friends. Much love and light. Peace.